7 years ago, one of the most devastating tropical storms in U.S. history hit the Gulf Coast, causing significant damage to several states. And one man's perceived reluctance to help attracted the wrath of the nation, who took to social media to call him out until he moved to act. What really happened? What's the full story? Let's take a look at the Houston flooding incident and how Joel Osteen got caught in a storm of controversy. Hurricane Harvey. In the wake of Hurricane Helen and Hurricane Milton, which caused untold damages in their own right, it can be easy to forget that the United States witnessed a similar tragedy in 2017, courtesy of Tropical Storm Harvey, a Category 4 storm. Harvey caused heavy downpours in Texas, which led to significant flooding in Houston. This left many dead or injured and caused huge damage to people's possessions and livelihoods. One of the victims included a man who met his end by a fire that started in Houston, no thanks to the panic created by the storm, which saw caution thrown to the wind. Another victim was a woman who tried to brace the high waters to her car but drowned before she got there. By the Sunday of the following week, 3 days after the storm outbreak, the local paper reported that Harvey had claimed 5 lives already, with the toll expected to rise further as rescuers reached more areas. As the news spread and the flooding worsened, city officials' phones rang off the hook, with over 2,000 emergency calls from panicky residents who've had to abandon their homes or were stranded on their roofs or in their vehicles. It didn't help that flash floods caused a further 1,000 residents to be rescued and relocated overnight. With tensions running high and people fearing for their lives and loved ones, many turned to divine intervention. Unfortunately, one of them was a millionaire with enough resources to help. Osteen enters the fray.
You with Joel Osteen? Hey man, you know you're a piece of shit, right? You know, right? Right? Come on, yeah, you know. You know, right? Yeah. Yeah, you know.
In times of natural disasters, stories from affected regions often mention heroes, people who go over and beyond to help others in such trying times. Jim McInvale of Mattress Mac was one such hero in Texas. He invited people fleeing Hurricane Harvey to shelter in his 2 huge furniture stores. That was kind enough, but the Houston businessman didn't stop there. He also sent out trucks to pick up people who couldn't make it to his stores. Then came Joel Osteen, whose contribution to the dire situation so far was a tweet on August 26, 2017, in which he wrote, "Victoria and I are praying for everyone affected by Hurricane Harvey. Please join us as we pray for the safety of our Texas friends and family." This tweet was a slap in the face for many, considering Osteen is easily one of the wealthiest preachers in the U.S., with an average of 35,000 to 50,000 people filling up his Lakewood church facilities every week. Combine the offerings and tithes, donations, and the streaming fees and royalties from his books, tapes, speaking engagements, and TV shows, Osteen had more than enough in his coffers to do more than just be another virtue-signaling Twitter user. Now, you might be wondering why the onus is on Osteen to provide shelter for victims of Hurricane Harvey. Shouldn't that be the job of the government and relevant emergency services? You'd have a point, of course. However, given how much rescuers were spread thin, with rescue centers exceeding their maximum limits, mattress stores and even mosques stepped up and provided temporary shelter and relief. So what's the excuse for one of the biggest churches in Texas? To quote Andy Osawe, a Houston local, "A church like this, with this mode of preaching, is supposed to be one of the first to open." And he's not wrong. Joel Osteen is one of the most successful evangelical hustlers in the nation and has amassed an obscene amount of wealth through his ministry, even though he'd prefer you believe he does a thankless job with no pay. However, if that were the case, he'd be more transparent with his church's finances and not enjoy the tax-exempt status his organization enjoys, right? Osteen wants you to believe that God will reward you with every material success you desire, so long as you deserve it. That you can have untold wealth, and his wealth is a confirmation of his logic and principles at work. To quote the man himself, "I preach that anybody can improve their lives. I think God wants us to send our kids to college. That's all well and dandy, but there's a catch. The flip side is that if you don't get all this immense wealth, well, that's your fault, isn't it? But do not worry, you can provoke God to look in your direction. If you only give and sow seeds and make donations, and while you do all that, Osteen does his best to keep the jig going, investing in a state-of-the-art audiovisual flair that puts Hollywood's latest releases to shame, from professional musicians to huge screens to the most stunning preachers you ever saw. The scale and spectacle combine religion and entertainment into one experience, and the congregants are no more than spectators being serenaded to continue to be milked. Then again, what's to be expected when you show up at a church headquartered at the former home of the Houston Rockets? You've got courtside seats, but not to heaven. The controversy begins. Osteen's single post the day following Hurricane Harvey's landfall sparked a domino effect that soon caused a scandal. Both popular and less popular folks weighed in on his tweet, including singer Travis Garland, who joined the conversation, tweeting, "Deeply disappointed at Joel Osteen. That house belongs to God, plus was built for people in need. You should have been the first to open your doors." Other folks were less graceful with their replies, like Mark Elliott of the Economic Mobility Corporation, who seemingly kept up with Osteen's activities well into the new week. His first response to Osteen's tweet reads, "Houston's Joel Osteen has a net worth of over $50 million and a church that holds 16,800, but this is all he's offering." Another user by the name Eric B. tweeted, "Give to the one who asks you, unless they ask you for shelter in your cancer church. Then screw him." Bible verse according to Joel Osteen. A different user by the tag KLB had similar sentiments, writing, "When Joel Osteen has a gigantic church and a $10 million home in Houston, but he only offering prayers to people affected by Hurricane Harvey." Then there was Charlotte Clymer, whose profile appeared to have been blocked by the Texas-based preacher who tweeted, "Curious about what Joel Osteen's Houston-based megachurch is doing to help folks. I went to his profile. Your guess is as accurate as mine." Denial.
We work with the city constantly. The city set up a shelter about 4 miles from here that can house 10,000 people, showers, dormitories, kitchens, security, all that. They didn't need us as a shelter at that point. They wanted us to be a distribution center, things like that. So we said, fine, you do that, we'll do our part, never dreaming that we would have so many people needing shelters. When they filled up, they said we need shelters, we started our shelter.
As sentiments soured towards Osteen and his church, the preacher took to social media to share pictures, which show water around the premises and surrounding areas, explaining that the church could not be used as a rescue center given that it was facing a similar flooding problem. However, social media users weren't convinced, with Charlotte Clymer tweeting that he was currently attempting to confirm Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church in Houston is, in fact, flooded plus inaccessible. Anyone with details, reply here. Several locals in the Houston area took up the challenge to investigate Osteen's comments. You know, a pastor is a beacon of truth and Christianity when people don't take his word for it. Unfortunately for Osteen, the reports from these investigative locals were different from his. They posted videos and pictures of closed doors, with the church mostly empty from their viewpoint outside. As another user, Charles Clymer, noted, Houston's at indivisible_USA is acquainted with Joel Osteen's Lakewood Church. They took these pics about an hour ago with commentary. The commentary attached to the pictures reports that there was no flooding in the area, nor were the roads leading up to the church inaccessible. Other pictures showed unscathed cars in the parking lot, as well as multi-level garages and underground docks with no flooding. The fact that locals got up to the church to show videos and pictures that starkly contrasted with Osteen's reports of his church being inaccessible only worsened sentiments toward the preacher. He soon refrained from commenting on the situation, instead leaving it to his church to publish a press release which read, "Over the last couple of days, as the enormity of the storm was being realized, we have been working to organize relief efforts for the Houston area with our friend Franklin Graham and the disaster relief organization that he oversees, Samaritan's Purse." Even then, social media users were still not ready to drop their pitchforks, with Mark Elliott returning to tweet, "I see some reports that Osteen's church will offer shelter. I'll believe it when it's posted by his church." And even after seeing the press release, Elliott kept up his due diligence, reporting, "Weird. Osteen's Lakewood Church still not listed on Tuesday's shelter list." At this point, it has been 5 days since Hurricane Harvey hit Texas, and Osteen and his church were yet to join the fight. Better late than never.
The building, once a 16,000-seat arena, is now filling up with volunteers, supplies, and evacuees. But that didn't happen until yesterday. Osteen says the church itself was threatened by floodwaters and there were safety concerns.
By the time Lakewood Church started receiving affected locals, it was Wednesday morning. Hundreds of volunteers turned up to take care of over 400 victims of Hurricane Harvey. The Osteens had been at the premises earlier that day, but left as things got busier. Osteen himself reported to CNN that claims of his church's doors being shut were false narratives. According to him, there was a safety issue the first day or two, he said. "We would never put people in here until we know that it's safe. And it was not safe those days, let me tell you." Donald Iloff Jr., Lakewood's chief of communications, parroted the sentiments of his employer, claiming that the church had been open since the storm began. But only 3 or 4 people showed up. Iloff also claimed that the church didn't make the designated shelter list because of flooding and inaccessibility concerns, as well as because there was a refuge center a few miles away. In his words, "We're not selling hamburgers, man. You ain't gonna buy from us instead of McDonald's. Go to the place you should go to, which is the Red Cross Center. We weren't the best shelter to go to," he said, adding that during Tropical Storm Allison in 2001, when Lakewood was in a different building, it offered shelter to the public. "You have the haters," Iloff added. "There are people who don't like our ministry, don't like Joel, and don't like Lakewood Church specifically. And then there is a significant portion of the population that hates faith and religion. But of course we are sure people didn't show up to Lakewood Church because they all dislike Joel and his church. Never mind that the same church draws in tens of thousands of congregants every week from within and outside Texas. Anyway, what do you think of this scandal? Did you buy what Osteen was selling? Or do you think he caved under pressure and tried to spin a different story? Let us know in the comments. And if you enjoy this video, don't miss our deep dive on Joel Osteen, where we explore why so many dislike him. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.